I will toast you, my friend, and all the others that stand up against tyrants and who go against the flow, against all the odds, and succeed. You were truly in the arena, and I will close with the famous Mark Twain quote that I give so many times because it's so true. I've lived it. In the beginning, a patriot is a scarce man, hated and feared and scorned. But in time, when his cause succeeds, the timid join him, because then it costs nothing to be a patriot.
Welcome to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. I'm joined here with Jakari Jackson, and Alex is going to be with us at the bottom of the hour. We got some big breaking news coming up. People are waking up, and things that have been hidden for decades are coming out. And we've also got the fight accelerating. What do you think about this, Jakari?
Yeah, the fight is definitely accelerating. Like I said, Alex will be with us at the bottom of the hour to talk about how the mainstream keeps attacking Alex, not just people like Alex, but your ordinary citizens, people who are interested in learning this information. We heard Maddow talk about how people on our site, it's not a dating site. A dating site is, something like Match.com. Our site is a public comments where people can share ideas, and dating is just a very small section of Planet InfoWars. But Alex will talk about all that. And
ridicule is a very effective weapon, and they're using it. The problem is that we're kind of gone past that stage right now. Right. Rachel Maddow didn't get the memo soon enough.
Right. So it's the thing, like they ignore you, then they fight you, then you win, and all that. So that's what we're going through right now. It's growing pains, but I think it's definitely a growing patriot movement, and I think it's a good deal. And
speaking of ignoring, we got some sad news. Jim Tucker, who was someone who really kind of stayed on the trail of the Bilderberg conference for decades by himself, pretty much at the beginning.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And was totally ridiculed for decades, and now it's come out in the light, and people are seeing what's happening with this. It's being exposed, and people are fighting it, and so you got mainstream newspaper people covering it. But as he said at the very beginning, he has a famous quote that he said, "If 100 of the world's biggest sports figures or film stars are gathered in some exclusive resort behind closed doors for a private meeting, the entirety of the mass media would be on hand, clamoring for admittance and demanding to know what was going on. But when the world's richest bankers, media barons, industrialists, members of royalty, and political leaders are secretly meeting and discussing public policy matters that impacted the course of the world's affairs, the establishment press never said a word."
And that's exactly true. We saw that this past weekend, just using that comparison to athletes with the NFL draft. I mean, these guys, some people may know them. They may be future superstars, but these guys who are mostly unknown, went to the draft, got drafted into the NFL, and it's this big media blitz. It's all over the news networks.
Look at how much attention the press credentials party had, and all the celebrities that were there. With Obama's press conference party that they had this last week. I mean, whenever you get politicians and you get celebrities together, the media goes into a feeding frenzy.
Oh yeah.
Except that at the Bilderberg conference, they don't want anybody to know about it. They keep it quiet. And until just the last couple of years, nobody in the mainstream press showed up at all.
Right.
Now you're starting to get a little bit of coverage about it, but nobody ever heard. If you even mentioned the word Bilderberg, you were laughed at.
Yeah, you're
as a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. And it's very true. And then they got to the point, the mainstream media, they said, we'll cover it, but we won't tell people what it's about. Bill Gates and Oprah showed up, and they're the super friends, and you get that kind of spin on it.
Well, it actually raises ethical and even legal questions when you've got political leaders meeting secretly with people who are from other countries, other political leaders, as well as corporations. That's where you have restrictions on that for ethical reasons and for legal reasons, and so that's another reason I think that you have these politicians slipping in and out. But you got a lot of seated politicians, some people who are chancellors of the exchequer in England, and it's all different countries meeting with these bankers, and that's what Jim Tucker was talking about. And unfortunately, he passed away on April the 26th. But a day before he passed away, Rolling Stones came up with an article, and listen to the title of this article: "Everything is rigged, the biggest price-fixing scandal ever." And here's the subtitle: "The Illuminati were amateurs. The second huge scandal of the year reveals the real international conspiracy that there's no price big banks can't fix. And we'll talk about that a little bit more right after the break. David Knight here with Jakari Jackson, and Alex has joined us at the bottom of the hour.
I'm Darren McBreen, and these are some of the new items that are available now at InfoWarsShop.com.
Alert the public to Obama's blatant abuse of power with the new Obama t-shirt. Obama's Joker face on the front and come and take it on the back. It's time to publicly call him out for what he is, a tyrant. Defend the Second Amendment with our top seller Come and Take It t-shirts. And look at that, women's cut tank tops and t-shirts now available. Nice hat. Plus the Don't Tread on Me flag. And now you can become a micro distributor of the InfoWars magazine. Plus, get your own copy delivered right to your door each and every month. And if you're tired like I am of you and your family being exposed to polluted drinking water, get the Pro One high-performance water filter. It gets rid of all pathogenic bacteria, cyst, fluoride, heavy metals, and numerous other contaminants.
So join the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.
This is David Knight here with Jakari Jackson. This is the Alex Jones Show, and Alex is going to be joining us in a half hour. And we're just talking about some of the events that have happened in the last couple of days, particularly the passing of Jim Tucker. We're sorry to see that happen, and our condolences go out to his family. He's survived by 2 sons. But in 2005, they released his book, The Bilderberg Diary, and it was subtitled, One Reporter's 25-Year Battle to Shine Light on the World's Shadow Government. That pretty much sums up his work, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. He's been a very influential person at exposing Bilderberg. He's in some of our videos. I believe he's in Endgame as well as others. Mm-hmm. And he was the spearhead. You know, we always talk about Alex as being the spearhead, Ron Paul of being spearhead of, various movements and organizations, but Jim was the guy spearheading exposing Bilderberg, the group that nobody wanted to admit existed, and when they did admit that it existed, well, it's not a big deal. They just get together, and I'm not sure what the excuse is going to be this year, but the guys just get there and they hang out according to the mainstream path.
Absolutely. Yeah, not a big deal, except that when we found out in 2009, we saw a leaked 1955 Bilderberg document that outlined plans for a single European currency, the euro. Right. And it's interesting, I think, that we look at the euro and we see some of the same hallmarks that we saw with the creation of the Federal Reserve here in the United States. Many people have made a case that J.P. Morgan actually instigated the crash of 1907, the panic and crash, and then presented himself as a rescuer and came in to mop things up and to give it a new structure, which turned out to be the Federal Reserve. We see the same sort of thing happening now in Europe with the Goldman Sachs. Essentially, you're seeing a liquidity crisis that's going on there. And listen to this, because we talked about this just briefly. The day before Jim Tucker died, after working decades in the wilderness, Rolling Stones comes out and they have an article. Everything is rigged, the biggest price-fixing scandal ever. They said that there's no price that the big banks can't fix. Here's the opening paragraph here. Conspiracy theorists of the world, believers in the hidden hands of the Rothschilds and the Masons and the Illuminati, we skeptics owe you an apology. You were right. The players may be a little different, but your basic premise is correct. The world is a rigged game. And they talk about the LIBOR scandal. They said 3, perhaps as many as 16 banks, according to this article, and we know this is true, of the too big to fail banks basically manipulated global interest rates. You know, when you get a variable rate loan, LIBOR is what they key it to, right? And that's supposed to be an honest market based interest rate. But, when you've got these banks have so much power, and there's so few of the large banks now, it's consolidated into so few hands, it's very easy for them to manipulate it. You don't really have a free market. It's not a failure of the free market. What we're seeing here is crony capitalism. We're seeing a system that is even beyond crony capitalism. It's not like these guys are buying favors from the government. They are the government, okay?
And that's what people they don't want to acknowledge that,
That's right.
Because I was about to say they don't want to admit that. I mean, they understand that something's going on, but they don't want to think that it's that bad.
And the magnitude of it is just astonishing. Far, far bigger than what happened with the bank bailouts here. This is just the LIBOR scandal is 500 trillion with a T, 500 trillion. So, we were talking about something that was about 14 trillion, with the the bank with TARP and that sort of thing. But now this is $500 trillion, and that's not it. It's not stopping there. Now there's another one that is essentially the same way, that has to do with London-based firm ICAP, the world's largest broker of interest rate swaps, is being investigated by American authorities for behavior that sounds eerily reminiscent of the LIBOR mess. That's what Rolling Stone says. ICAP may have worked with, again, up to 15 of the world's largest banks to manipulate ISDA fix, a benchmark number used around the world to calculate the prices of interest rate swaps. Okay, so again, we see the same sort of thing. They create a liquidity crisis, just like they did with TARP. They use that as a way to consolidate both their wealth and their power, and to fundamentally alter our financial system, our political system. And you see this is going on throughout Europe.
Cyprus.
Exactly. As Nigel Farage said, to the European technocrats, he said, who are you? You're unelected bureaucrats coming in here. They call these bankers technocrats to give them some panache or whatever, but they're basically just bankers coming in and taking over and throwing out politicians who've been elected.
And I just don't get why people can't understand that this is going on when you see situations like Cyprus where they just take money out of your account. MF Global here, Gerald Celente has been on the show several times talking about his quarrels with them, but people just don't want to acknowledge it. Even the thing recently with Chase Bank, I believe it was right after Cyprus, and everybody had a zero balance in their account for a little bit. Some people noticed, some people didn't, and then they got their money back, I guess you would say. But and it's stuff like that. And think about if that happened nationwide. We don't have to go worldwide. If that went nationwide with Chase Bank America or whoever else, and then people were like, oh, I have no money in my account. What am I going to do?
Yeah, absolutely. It's truly amazing that they can get away with this, and it's truly amazing the magnitude of the fraud that you see happening here. And the only country that has really not fallen for this was Iceland. And quite frankly, I think if Iceland was a more significant part of the overall economy, if it had a larger impact, I think you'd be seeing several politicians dead by now. Accidentally, of course. Right?
Oh, yeah.
But I think you would have had something of a coup happen there, as we've seen before in our country when people stand up to the Federal Reserve or the bankers. You see that type of thing happening. But Iceland is the only one that said, basically, we're not going to make the bankers whole. We're going to let them suffer the risk that they took. They like to privatize the profits but socialize the losses, and they weren't going to let them do that, and didn't let them do that in Iceland so far. So we'll see what happens with that.
Right.
Now, another way that things have we've seen another vindication, and actually, at the end of the week last week, we had Politico talking about how the New York Times had vindicated Breitbart. Here's another situation, and that was a story that came out. It kind of became a personal thing for Andrew Breitbart. Here's a quote from Politico. It says, it shows how political appointees in the Obama administration's Justice and Agriculture departments turned a potential government court victory into a $1.3 billion settlement for Hispanic and female farmers, some of whom never even claimed discrimination in court. And it says that this lawsuit, Pigford versus Glickman, was a personal cause for Breitbart before he died. And he was basically castigated by the left for his being involved in that, because at the time, just as we see so many people on the left, MSNBC, they like to portray themselves as being civil libertarians, as being against unnecessary wars and everything.
That's why they like to portray themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Until their guy gets in. Then they'll defend it to the hilt. But of course, MSNBC is owned by one of the largest members of the military-industrial complex, General Electric.
Right.
So that's where they go.
You can't have guys like Breitbart who, threaten to blow the whistle on guys like Obama.
Right.
You can't have him out there pushing the information.
And listen to the absurdity of this. This is a program that was supposed to help poor rural farmers, right? And in Maple Hill, now this is from the New York Times article, it says a struggling town in southeastern North Carolina, the number of people paid was nearly 4 times the total number of farms in the area.
Wow.
Okay, more than 1 in 9 African-American adults there received checks. And in Little Rock, Arkansas, a confidential list of payments shows that 10 members of one extended family collected a total of $500,000. And dozens of other successful claimants shared addresses, phone numbers, or close family connections. Again, we see not only the corruption, but just the basic incompetence of the government in terms of doing this. I mean, at some of these levels, this is not something that is necessarily, as far as we can tell at this point, something going to bankers, but this is something that is just massive incompetence, and then just kind of doubling down on their program, and not being open to restoring something, that's just, but setting up entitlement programs that just get ripped off, and then not wanting to be embarrassed and shut those things down. And
we see that people get embarrassed with their entitlement programs, like you said. We saw Project Veritas. They go to Acorn and, hey, I'm a pimp, and I need a house for my hookers, and Project Acorn is telling them, yeah, we can do all that, and then they get embarrassed by the videos and they shut the stuff down. And I definitely recognize there are people who need various assistance, but you don't want them to become dependent, lifelong recipients of this.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to be talking a little bit more about how things are changing and one of the ways that they're accelerating right after this break. I'm David Knight with Jakari Jackson. Alex will be joining us at the bottom of the hour.
Ask yourselves, what are you doing in this time of great challenge? What are you doing to unlock minds?
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. Jakari Jackson and David Knight filling in for Alex, but he will be joining us, I believe, in the next segment, so stay tuned for that. Now, David, I want to dovetail on something we spoke about in the last segment. Let's talk about the assistance programs that often make people dependent. Mike Adams has this article, Obama administration openly pushing food stamps to illegals. Now, why would you say Obama would do this? Let's take a look at what Mike has to say. Documents obtained through the Freedom of Information Act reveal that the Obama administration is actively marketing the federal food stamp program to illegal immigrants. A Spanish-speaking flyer obtained by Judicial Watch says, quote, "You need not divulge information regarding your immigration status in seeking this benefit for your children," end quote. So, David, we see
that they're marketing it.
Yeah, they're marketing. This isn't just something that's, you can learn in whispers and, hey, some guy told me this. You can see a actual flyer. You can, go to the local grocery store, wherever else they have this flyer, and see this and say, we don't need to know your immigration status. And we saw a similar thing with the free driver's licenses in various states. We don't need to know where you're from. You don't have to give us any thumbprints or fingerprints. And, I'm not for biometrics, but here in Texas, to get my Texas license, I had to give my biometrics. And I'm from Oklahoma. So people can come from another country, go to a state that doesn't require such requirements, and get their driver's licenses.
Yeah. Well, what you're seeing here is the same sort of thing that they're trying to grow their bureaucracy. And in the same way that Homeland Security tries to grow their bureaucracy through fear, okay, these people try to grow their bureaucracy just by getting more people on the rolls, and you've got two things here that one is a pet project of the left, the other is a pet project of the right, in this false dichotomy that we've got here. One, the right wants to spend unlimited amounts of money on the military-industrial complex, and the left wants to spend unlimited amounts of money on a welfare state. And the simple fact of the matter is that, you have people that need to be helped in a society.
Right.
The worst way to do it is the most centralized way to take everything up to Washington to get it done. Okay, because these people are just interested in building empires. They're not really interested in helping people, and they want to get dependents on the state. They want people who are dependent on the state. Whether they can get you there by financial dependence, or they can get you there because they've got you scared to death and clamoring to be kept safe. They want you to be dependent on the state.
And when you criticize these programs, you're called racist, and you hate this group or you hate that group. I mean, Alex brings up the point all the time. I can't go down to Mexico and, have a child born for free. I can't get free health care in Mexico. I get stopped at the Mexico border if I want to go to Mexico, but it's somehow racist if we have a border that checks people from the other side, from Mexico coming in. That's racist, but I get stopped when I go to the Mexico border.
Right, and the easiest way to stop these abuses is to make them happen at the lowest possible level, the most personal level. That's why personal charity and churches helping people, that was the ideal way to do it. That's the way it was in America when de Tocqueville came. It was done on a personal level, and people could see who really needed it. They could see if somebody was getting assistance and they were just kind of, okay, I'm just going to slack off, And at that point, you kind of pull back and say, now you need to start working, because you need to get back on your feet. But if you have a large and personal bureaucracy, they not only don't help the people very well who really do need it, but they give help to people who don't need it. And it's just because of that impersonal, centralized failure, really.
Exactly.
But it's not really a failure because it was designed to create dependence.
Oh, yes.
That's the key thing. Just like we talk about these security issues, just as Sibel Edmonds said, the real drill wasn't the bomb drill that was happening simultaneously. The real drill was to see how people reacted to it.
Well, when you say something, when somebody demands that you come out of your own house at gunpoint, that's a good point. That is the real point of that.
That was the real test. You know, what are Americans going to do, especially Americans, let's say in the Northeast? It might be a little bit different down here in Texas. Maybe it's not. I mean, we've gone around. There's a lot of people that have that same mindset.
Right, guys, I'm just a little off topic. Can you go and look and see what the murder rate was this weekend in Chicago? If you guys just look that up, because we brought up a point last week when 10 people get killed in Chicago over the weekend, they don't lock down a city.
That's right.
They don't even, most of them, they don't even lock down a city block trying to catch these guys.
Well, just look at the difference in the way you have the crimes that this abortion doctor in Philadelphia committed, right? The media is not really initially interested in doing that. And not until their non-coverage became a story did they start to run, did the big papers start to run stories on that. Breitbart's organization showed pictures of empty benches there. And so they started running some stories at that point in time, but their excuse was, this is just a local crime story. Well, Sandy Hook was a local crime story from that same benchmark. And yet they are still talking about that months later, continually showing people who are victims of that.
Right.
And, you could also say that the Boston bombing was a local story, but they're picking that up because it's something that feeds their agendas.
Their narrative.
Exactly. And it's something that, they're using it to fundamentally change things here domestically. And as Sibel Edmonds talked about, it looks like they're using it to justify some more of these foreign interventions. So they've got both a domestic and an international agenda that they feed with this.
And exactly, we heard I believe it's the police commissioner of Boston saying he wants drones at the next Boston Marathon and all kinds of craziness. And Bloomberg saying that we were next, referring to New York. And maybe they were. I don't know.
Maybe they were. I want to see some evidence other than just Bloomberg's word.
Yeah, that's why I say I want to know more about this. Just like I still want to see photos or images of these guys placing these bombs down.
Exactly. And we still haven't. All we have is even the governor, Deval Patrick, said that it had been described to him, but the FBI didn't show him the pictures of the bombs, of the backpacks being set down. And so even from that standpoint, there's an international agenda going on that they're supporting with this, a domestic agenda of a police state that's going on with this. But even the people who are getting angry at us, like Dan Bidandi was talking about, his in-laws were just furious with him because he was trying to get to the truth and asked him about a bomb drill and various other things that other media wasn't asking. There is also an issue of justice being done. I mean, if you're not, when we have a case like this where it's a high-profile case, we have children killed, you have people maimed for life, or you have a policeman killed, there's always a rush to try to find somebody that they can pin this on, whether it's the right person or not. And we see that over and over again. A beautiful example of that, if you haven't seen it, is A Thin Blue Line, that documentary where they did that. A guy was on death row accused of killing a policeman. They had rushed him into that. And decades later, they were still absolutely certain they had the right guy. But the guy who did that documentary had the murder actually confess. He'd actually did the investigation. So you want to make sure that people are, the right people are punished for this, right? When you punish an innocent person, that's bad. That's
and not only that, the real perpetrator is still out there.
Exactly. When you punish an innocent person, that's bad. And but you're also letting the guilty go free when you do that. So we want to ask these questions because we know how this is being used to feed an agenda, international and domestic, and we also want to see justice done. And people who just want to say, well, we're finished, they caught somebody, that's not really respecting the victims at all. No,
and the victims, they're very emotional, and they want somebody to blame, which I can understand that. But you definitely want to look at all the angles. We've not seen one image of the Boston bombers allegedly, the suspects placing a bomb. We have not seen any other type of evidence. It's just the FBI's word for it. Take our word for it. Don't look at any other images. Look at these two guys. This is all you need to see right here.
And we've seen that happen before. We're going to be joined right after the break with Alex Jones, so stick around. He's going to have some more analysis of what's going on. Be right back.
I had tried everything. I'd cut back the amount of food I was eating. I was lifting weights and jogging, but nothing was working. My body was literally starving for minerals and trace elements as well as key vitamins. And as soon as I had that, I immediately could eat half of what I was eating previously and be satisfied. Now, there are hundreds of great products at InfoWarsTeam.com, but I want to point out the 3 that have helped me lose 37 pounds in just 2 months. Products like Beyond Tangy Tangerine, Pollen Burst, and Rebound. When I started taking the Tangy Tangerine and other products every day, I lost more than 37 pounds in just 2 months. Now that's results. I want to challenge my listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com and to order just 3 of their products, and you will see the changes in the way you look, feel, and in your appetite almost immediately. Start your journey to health and wellness today. InfoWarsTeam.com.
And welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. Jakari Jackson and David Knight. We are now joined by Alex, who's joined us video Skype. Can you hear us, Alex?
I can, gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me on the broadcast today. A lot to talk about. I know that you were getting into the fact that we're winning. It's not that the mainstream corporate media is validating us. We don't need their validation. It's that they're panicking, they're freaking out. Their share of the listener and viewership and readership is imploding. This is a major sign worldwide that they're having to admit in the Rolling Stone and New York Times and so many other places that the American people and the people of the world are awakening to private, corporate, basically mafia organizations. You know, J. Edgar Hoover, famously back in the early 1950s before Congress, I talk about this a lot because it's so important. He said, look, La Cosa Nostra, organized crime, is a conspiracy theory. He said it doesn't exist. And we know that's because the police in this country across the board were being paid off, especially at the federal level, by organized crime. Every American listening to me right now, every European, every Japanese person, every Latin American, we're all laughing going, you mean people in the 40s and 50s didn't believe organized crime existed?
That's true.
People knew that gangsters existed that would shoot each other up, but not organized big corporate operations. The truth is the Federal Reserve is organized crime. And now you've got all these news articles admitting, wow, the interest rates are fixed by big insiders. Wow, the stock market is fixed. They'll burn a Martha Stewart for doing nothing wrong and then let foreign banks steal billions a day. It's estimated just some of the flash trading is $2 or $3 billion a day, stealing that from regular people in the stock market, stealing that from pension funds, stealing that from investments, stealing that from portfolios. And now the Rolling Stone comes out and lists an entire raft of fraud. Listen, they have been taking for 20 years in this country houses that are 100% paid off. I don't mean you're behind on your mortgage and they cheat you in the contract and take it before they're allowed to. I mean they take houses. Famously, you can look at Bank of America has bank accounts seized out of Florida where a judge did the right thing where they'd taken $1 million house that had been paid for a decade. They never had a note. They never owned a note. The house had been paid for in cash. They just took a $1.2 million house because they felt like it. If they can get away with this, they can get away with anything. And now enter Jim Tucker. You're a radio listener, and you're saying, who is Jim Tucker? Well, I think it was Westbrook Pegler back in the 40s and 50s a few times, had run into Bilderberg Group meetings in Jekyll Island, Georgia, and also in New York, and he'd written about it. What are world leaders and royalty, 150 or so, meeting in secret doing under high security? Why won't the press report on it? Well, it was Tucker, a sports writer who was very successful and also a news editor at major East Coast newspapers. I mean, he ran the Washington newspapers, New York newspapers, you name it. He then discovered all of this off of Pegler's writings and began to cover it in the 70s. And until about 8 years ago, mainstream corporate press in the U.S. said Bilderberg Group does not exist, and you are basically an extremist if you say it does. It's code for racism. It's code for this and that. There's no shadowy mega corporations buying and selling your politicians, which, of course, the minutes of Bilderberg have been leaked. They've been stolen. We now know that's the case. They just released WikiLeaks minutes, with top Bilderberg Group member Henry Kissinger saying, we do illegal immediately, constitutional takes a little more time. The Italian Supreme Court just went public
with working with the U.S. government and NATO in the 80s, staging terror attacks to blame it on political left and right. Whoever was getting popular, but what was truly populist, they would just blow something up and blame it on them. I think we've heard of that before, using their intelligence assets and patsies as part of the NATO option. So the fact that he, since the 1974 is when he started out, that's the year I was born, so let's be technical, 38 years ago. It took him about 5 years to figure out the name of it. Imagine one guy off of one other famous political reporter who just done a few stories on it and you know, wondered what it was. Then being able today, Bilderberg is now admitted to be real. People admit there's a global corporate elite that doesn't want free market, that wants monopolies. It's just like the bullets. For the first year, we're now about 2 years into this, we're almost like, I don't know, 17, 18 months, a little more than a year and a half. They would say there are no bullets when it was 500,000 bullets, or excuse me, 500 million bullets, and then 1 billion bullets, and then 2 billion bullets, and then 2.2 billion bullets the last 18, 19 months, whatever it is, a little over a year and a half. Now they're having congressional hearings, and the White House-run MSNBC, with its pathetic audience, 500,000 people at one time, are begging, saying, don't look at this. Don't listen to Alex Jones' conspiracy theories. The evil Alex Jones did these articles. The evil Matt Drudge at drudgereport.com posted them. I mean, we're going to play a clip next hour. The point here is that they're saying none of this exists. Meanwhile, they say it doesn't exist, but then in the article say, well, we did buy over 2 billion bullets, but we got delivery of 1 billion and 1 billion more are coming, but it's not to kill you. It's not for domestic use, even though Homeland Security is domestic, and they're training to take on Tea Party, gun owners, returning veterans. That's in their own memos. They've got paper targets of little kids and pregnant women, you know, saying all of this. This is all absolutely, totally, and completely over the top, off the charts, insane, that they're now saying, okay, we did buy the bullets, but you're discredited. They're not for you, when all their memos, all their documentation show that. The system is counting on people being ignorant. But as soon as the public learns that the system is moving towards a cold-blooded aim, as soon as they realize it's offshore mega banks that want to make you poor, want to destroy sovereignty, wanted to ship the jobs overseas, wanted to shut down the power plants because they've already invested in China, India, Mexico, and 160 other third-world countries. As soon as all that is clear, that the globalists have moved out of America, instead of a military attack, they caused an infiltration attack of government to set up a police state while economically moving all of our industry offshore to areas they control. So they become incredibly profitable. They become the only central controllers of industrial and technological development, even offshoring our military might. And then they've basically economically brought us under their control, so they can now economically bankrupt us and take us through a process of domestication and forcing everyone either into government contracts, government jobs, or welfare, or the criminal justice system, or the psychological warfare system that they call the psychological system. And this is all stated by them. They think you're so dumb, and this is where they've miscalculated. They think you're so dumb that they've written textbooks and documents and papers admitting all this, and now they have a shadow of a shadow of a shadow. People like Rachel Maddow freaking out online, absolutely pulling their hair out, just going crazy. Right now, we're going to play some clips of this in the next hour, saying, how dare Ron Paul, how dare Alex Jones, how dare Drudge Report, how dare anyone be able to challenge us when they're discredited. You can only get your info from us. We sit up here and we lecture you and talk to you like you're 5 years old and tell you that, you know, liberty is dead. And by the way, Americans need to roll over and die and pay for foreigners to have their babies here and pay for all their welfare. That's a form of, hospitality is for liberty lovers to roll over and die politically. Well, we're not going to roll over and die, and tyranny will go down. Authoritarian control freaks throughout history have sought to make populations dependent. The United Nations openly has talked about using food as a weapon against the third world and the industrialized first world. State Department Memorandum 200, developed by Henry Kissinger, called for destroying the food capacity, not just of the United States, but every country in the world, so they could use food scarcity as a political weapon of control. Just a decade ago, less than 10 million Americans were on food stamps. 4 years ago, it was 25 million. It's now reached almost 50 million. Socialist health care is designed to destroy our health care system. The establishment wants you to be a bunch of cowardly, dumbed-down people who can't stand up for yourselves. That's why they're rushing to try to restrict citizens owning firearms. Because since the early 1990s, gun ownership has gone straight up, while violent crime has gone straight down by 49%. And globalist-controlled strongholds like Chicago and New York, where they've taken the citizens' guns, have the highest crime rates in the world. What am I getting at here? The system doesn't want you to be self-sufficient. That's why I promote the fact that you should go out, buy firearms, and go take lessons and learn how to use them. I want you to stand up for your birthright of liberty and freedom. During a serious meltdown, they're going to tell you, hey, you want food? Turn in your guns. And that's why we need to put the globalists in check. And then finally bring them to checkmate by being self-sufficient, by being prepared, by having a garden, by learning how to can your own foods, by having friends and family and community that will stand together. But at the heart of that is having quality, storable foods. And that's why I went out more than a decade ago and found the very best food company to be my sponsor, eFoods Direct. They're the company that I personally use for my emergency food storage preparation, whether it be for natural disasters or the tyranny that is intensifying. So give them a call, 800-409-5633. That's 800-409-5633. Or efoodsdirect.com/Alex to find the weekly and monthly specials. But they're always running the specials where you can get the free 6 meals and the eFoods Direct audio CD put together by the experts in storable foods to answer all your questions, the eFoods planning guide, the eFoods brochure, the eFoods catalog, plus 6 free meals, creamy potato soup, tortilla soup, and cheesy chicken rice, so you can sample the high-quality storable foods from eFoods Direct. They've got a bunch of other specials.
The 2-week food supply provides one adult with 81 servings of healthy, delicious, storable food for 14 days.
The 1-month food supply provides 192 servings for 28 days.
And then there's the 1-month family food pack. It will change the way you look at the food in your pantry. Every time you eat one of these meals, you are eating healthy, delicious food and saving a lot of money.
The 3-month food supply, 576 servings of storable food for 91 days.
And the 1-year food supply will provide you with 2,304 servings of healthy, delicious, storable food for 1 full year.
Your meals are as delicious and nutritious tonight as they'll be in 25 years.
Bottom line, there's a bunch of specials at efoodsdirect.com/Alex. You can also call them at the toll-free number on your screen, and they can send you a catalog with all the specials detailed and tell you about the weekly and monthly specials that they're always running. efoodsdirect.com/Alex to find all the specials or call the toll-free number. And so in closing, when you buy from efoodsdirect.com, you are supporting the radio broadcast, the nightly news, the magazine, the films, and everything we're doing. Because we're not like MSNBC or Media Matters that get government and corporate funding to bring down America and bring in tyranny. We are funded by our sponsors and you, the viewers and listeners that support them. Again, that's efoodsdirect.com/Alex or 800-409-5633. And when you're also visiting Infowars.com or PrisonPlanet.com, you can click on the banners to take you to the weekly and monthly specials. It's like the Hank Williams Jr. song, "A Country Boy Can Survive," because you can't starve us out and you can't make us run because these boys were raised on shotguns. Well, there aren't really a lot of good old boys left anymore, are there? And those that are out there are demonized and are enemy number 1 by Homeland Security. And good old boys come in all shapes, colors, and sizes. They're people that aren't chumps, who understand that they're going to take care of their family and that nobody else is. They're people that understand that if somebody else is taking care of them, that makes them a slave. And that the government doesn't want you dependent because they want to build a great future for you. They want to get you dependent so they can social engineer us. So the answer is get self-sufficient, become men again, and tell the New World Order to go straight to hell. Alex Jones signing off for Infowars.com and eFoods Direct, our great sponsor. Yes, my friends, and I am Alex Jones here with you on the road, as I will be tomorrow and the next day, and then back in Austin, Texas. The health ranger is going to be sitting in some as well, Mike Adams. We're going to open the phones up in the next hour for everybody out there, and I'll let Jakari, Jackson, and David Knight give you that Sunday number. Don't forget, we're here every Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time with a syndicated Sunday broadcast. I want to thank all of the AM and FM affiliates out there who carry the broadcast, who are helping defend the Republic from enemies foreign and domestic. We also have the weekday show, 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern, also carried on XM 166. And again, what I'm getting at here is we're in a culture war. And what the so-called liberals do, who are really authoritarians, what they do is they sit up there and just laugh and mock at everyone. And they sit there with a moral high ground talking about how smart their constituents are. When I've gone out in California and Texas, and so have our crews, in places like Austin where, quote, trendies are at, and they call for banning water. They call for confiscating all guns. They call, I had John Bound with Mark Dice out in California last week. This is on Infowars.com. They signed, people that spoke English, petitions to bring in Nazi rule to end American freedom. And as long as you said it's for Obama, they would sign it. Because, oh, they're on the winning team. Why think? Why know anything? Why not know that Obama's run by foreign banks set to shut down all our power plants? I mean, a foreign enemy couldn't do this. It's already happening. I mean, who's to know they want to break us and domesticate us? But I get back to Jim Tucker of American Free Press, whose family was visiting him yesterday, and he fell down the steps and then went to the hospital and died. I've known Jim for about 16 years. I've known him personally for about a decade or so, you know, at Bilderberg events and other things with him. And he was just an old-fashioned gumshoe reporter with a straw hat, the whole 9 yards. He was a news reporter, sports reporter, editor of major newspapers. He didn't believe any of this, and he set out to disprove, basically, Westbrook Pegler, and to find out that, you know, what had been reported in the 50s wasn't true. There's no shadowy group. There's not 150 royalty and bankers meeting in secret with politicians. I would know about it. And I'm repeating what Jim said in my film Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, 2007, where he laid all that out. And then, of course, he discovered it was all real. So they tell you there's no New World Order, there's no global government, there's no insider trading by big banks, there's no price fixing, there's no stock market fixing, there's no fixing of any of this going on, the interest rates, and then it all comes out. So now we're to the point where liberal magazines that are real liberal, you know, writers, I guess Matt Taibbi, you could say, or anybody that has any conscience, conservatives, libertarians, have to come together and say, look, we're just Americans and freedom lovers who don't want to be run by foreign banks. I mean, when you read the Financial Times of London and the minutes of the Davos, Switzerland meetings and the leaks of the Bilderberg meeting, they say we're going to bankrupt all nations until everybody is totally under government control for social engineering, and we're going to shut off the power. We're going to make everybody incredibly poor, except for us, the elite, because we don't like you using our globalist resources. And then after we get you all poor and dumbed down, then we're going to start one-child policies and reducing your numbers. Everything China, with the CIA putting Mao Zedong in power in 49, all declassified, China was the model. You want to know what America's going to be like? China. Suicide nets, mass executions, one-child policies, hell on earth. That's what they want. And so, again, they try to sit there and say, there are no bullets being bought. There are no armored vehicles being bought. There are no cameras watching you. We're not listening to you without warrants. Now they go, you know what? We are watching you. We are buying bullets, but it's for your safety. We are buying armored vehicles, but it's for your safety. And the people that talk about it, they're extremists and they're bad. I mean, anybody can type in Congress investigates DHS bullet purchases, and you will see hundreds of articles, AP, Reuters, White House-run Media Matters, you name it, sitting there going, Alex Jones and Ron Paul and others are discredited for the bullets. Yes, we bought $2 billion, $200 million. Yes, but they're not for you. And then again, the Army manuals that we can put on screen for TV viewers, you can type in Army manual for re-education camp, Army manual to shoot gun owners. And you type that in, you'll be at army.mil with those exact words. I mean, it's not me saying re-education camp and extrapolating these political dissident camps they're building. It's their term, re-education camp. In fact, if they pull that up, the crew can read you that FM number from Army.mil. So I'm not trying to scare you. People say, oh, he's trying to scare us. No, no. If this is going on, it's unconstitutional, it's illegal. You get back to American values of small government, a constitutional republic, restoring the Bill of Rights, due process. They're trying to go in the opposite direction. And you notice as they get rid of the Bill of Rights and Constitution, all the prosperity disappears. So the good news is, the American instinct, you know, government has all this security, is dug in, arming to the teeth, surveilling us, but says, don't be paranoid. You need to just let us spy on you and be the only ones with the guns. Common sense is coming back because the prosperity is leaving. And everyone saw that martial law drill in Boston with everyone in half the city having to put their hands up and come out with their hands up as if they were all guilty. And then the lockdown caused them not to catch the patsy, who it turns out they were CIA. That's mainstream news. Look it up on Infowars.com. They were being set up. They were being used to undermine Russia. They were set up as patsies, probably part of a drill. Everything we talked about now being confirmed. So I want to get Jakari Jackson and David Knight's take on this as we go out to break, and then we're going to come back and analyze a plethora of news articles and the media making fun of PlanetInfowars.com, just PlanetInfowars.com's dating service. Now, folks, we have a social network. I never even really promote it, even though it's got over 1 million people on it. And that's wrong. I don't promote it. I set it up. People wanted it. You got it. And people created a dating thing. Just like they have camping and shooting and art stuff and just, I mean, thousands of different things on there. There's the Ask Alex area is popular, the Ron Paul area, the Nightly News area, the Jakari Jackson area. Anybody can go create it there. And they made fun of it. And Rachel Maddow said, I want to make money off of it. She's a woman that gets taxpayer money on record in the stimulus and bailout to fund MSNBC, who on record is tax-free. See, the big mega banks, and by the way, GE's a bank, they're tax exempt. Google is basically tax exempt. All these big billionaires are offshore. They go, oh, raise my taxes. I don't pay enough. They mean their domestic tax. They have loopholes on because they want more tax on the middle class to politically destroy you. It's not even about money they want. They have unlimited fiat. It's about social control. They want to be the only ones with the money. They don't like a free market. They don't like prosperity. Communism and socialism doesn't create prosperity, but it's always run by mega rich who are offshore above it. It's nothing but slavery, but they sell it in every globalist funded university and TV show as freedom. Che Guevara, bullcrap. Our government put Lenin in. Our filthy New World Order banker controlled government, occupational government put Mao in. Look it up, ladies and gentlemen. Look it all up. But they want communist states that will work with them. When they turn against them occasionally, it's because they're not working with them, like Hugo Chavez. Not saying he's a good guy, saying he's somebody who they didn't control. So what I'm getting at here is they're panicking right now, because if you wake up to what they've done, they all go to jail like Bernie Madoff and Ken Lay. And 2014 is so key. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, but it's the Democrats that are the hardcore globalists in our face. And that's why we've got to get Tea Party, Libertarian, Constitutionalist in Congress. And you're seeing them have the hearings on the bullets. They're my listeners. You're seeing it in the news. Look at this congressperson quoting Alex Jones and tweeting him. What are we going to do? Rachel Maddow says, they're taking over. What are we going to do? It's the Republican Party is the avenue for us. Run everybody for county, city, state, federal. Run like your life depends on it. As libertarians, as Republicans, like Ron Paul did back in the 90s, get in and sabotage them. If they take something like 30-something seats, it's over, folks. They're going to have the House, the Senate, and everything. You want a separation of powers. You want a separation in the Constitution. You don't want one group in power. That's called Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia. Gentlemen, take us out to break. Tell me what else you've got. I know you've got a big stack of news, both of you, David Knight and Jakari Jackson, coming up after I leave in about 30 minutes, but I'll be 30 minutes into the next hour.
Right. Coming up after Alex leaves us, we're going to have the bullet story. We're also going to talk about some drills, and that's where we're going to open the phones up. I definitely want to talk to the people who saw the drills in St. Louis. If you were in Oakland when the FBI came to take your guns. Also, if you're outside Chicago, I believe it's Tinley Park, we want to talk to you. What else do you have, David?
Well, you know, I just see this as how it's accelerating. You know, it took 25 years by himself for Jim Tucker, and now it was like 1 year and the bullets become an issue, in just a matter of days, and this false flag thing becomes an issue. So it's getting faster and faster.
Yeah, because we talk about things accelerating, but they're also accelerating on the cause of liberty.
That's
freedom.
Right.
People
That's
waking up. You know,
that's why Maddow's
information.
scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. Jakari Jackson, David Knight, and Alex Jones. He is joining us via Skype. He's on the road. But first, before we get to some more serious topics, I just want to go over a few things that we haven't had a chance to cover that much in these last couple of weeks. Dave, we have this article here from Fox News. Reps challenge DHS ammo buy, say agency using 1,000 more rounds per person than the Army.
Oh, yeah. And you know what's amazing about that is I think even more significant is that that's 4 times the amount of ammunition that a soldier uses, right? I mean, you know, when you look at numbers like that, it's kind of like, well, I don't know how many they use, but the soldiers are using about 350. They're using on average about 1,450.
And remember, this is after Obama says he wants a domestic security force that's just as competent and just as capable and just as well funded as the United States military. So we see this with DHS, where they have 1,000 rounds more rounds per person. And I'll read this quickly. Jason Chaftaz said on Thursday that the Department of Homeland Security is using roughly 1,000 rounds more ammunition than the U.S. Army, as he and other lawmakers sharply questioned DHS officials on their massive ammo buy.
Well, look at the way...
And again, they're panicking because it's Infowars.com that broke this. It's DrudgeReport.com that rammed it out into the mainstream news. And they hate it because... Again, when they had 1.6 billion, it was enough for, what, 27 years of an Iraq war. Now it's something like for a 35-year war. And they're saying the number is 70,000 feds. There's not 70,000 armed feds. It's more like 20,000. So the number's like 3 times that. And I mean, this is big. This is the proof. And they don't. I mean, look, if you're going to sneak attack somebody, you don't want them knowing you're about to sneak attack.
You don't buy decades worth of something in order to save money, and you don't buy hollow points to save money.
And their excuse is, well, we don't have it all right now. They're still shipping it over to us, and well, you still bought it.
Well, and if you look at the narrative, this Nick Nayak, the chief procurement officer for Homeland Security, says, oh, the number's really 750. That's not true. Their RFPs, first they had one for 250 million, then they had a 450 million, then they had a 750 million, then they had another 250. Those are all
I think
separate.
You should say all that. I think you should say that when we come back in the next segment. Save that, because some stations don't carry this 5 minutes. I think it's important because, David, you've really ferreted into the numbers, and done a bunch of reports for InfoWars Nightly News. But just to go from my background research, basically 2.2 billion bullets have been ordered. Around 1 billion in the last year and a half have been delivered. And then they say the rest is over the next few years. But then that's not true because they keep ordering more every month. Basically, it's whatever the manufacturers can produce, they'll accept to dry up the supply. That's what's really going on. I mean, this isn't even for a war with us, even though that's part of it. This is about drying it up. I've talked to FBI agents off record, federal marshals, and police, and they all concur. They're told this is to dry up civilian ammo.
Absolutely, because the military has their own manufacturing capacity that they run by themselves. Homeland Security is going into the commercial market. And there's an article on Infowars.com today that U.S. companies have purchased 900 million rounds of ammo from Russia. Now, that's another part where this UN arms trade treaty is coming in, because that's where they want to try to control that.
You can't get your arms from overseas, get your ammunition from overseas.
That's right.
By the way, the same denial, we posted NRA articles last week. We posted the links to the senators' websites. We posted links to Obama's announcements. And there were bots on Infowars.com and YouTube saying, this is a lie. It's not happening. And again, folks, it's a standard military op. We had links to the bullet purchases on the federal sites. We had links to the congressional announcements, the presidential announcements. And they still just say, you're a liar. You're discredited. And it's a mind game counting on the general public they know doesn't go look it up. The problem is once the public goes and looks it up once and finds out they're being lied to, they lose all credibility. When we make mistakes on accident, we come back and tell you about it because we want you to know it was a mistake. We want you to trust us, but to trust us to go look it up. Never believe what we say, because I want you to go verify it to know how real we are.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
They don't put links in their stories. We are the only ones that, MSNBC doesn't link it.
Oh, yeah. You read CNN, you read Fox, you read mainly USA Today, there's no links. Exactly.
That's right.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done has been right.
And welcome back to the Alex Jones Radio Show. Jakari Jackson, David Knight, and Alex Jones. He is on the road, but he is still with us. So we have a video list, and Alex, I'm sure you want to talk about this before we air it. The Rachel Maddow clip.
Sure, and this is only part of it. All week long, she was attacking us most of the nights. I just see the clips on YouTube, and Kurt Nimmo has written about it. But this latest article was titled Rachel Maddow's Jihad Against Alex Jones. And again, this is a woman on her top nights, has 600,000 viewers total in North America. Ladies and gentlemen, this radio show, the Sunday show, is not as big as the weekday show. Conservatively 2 million live. Couple 100,000 more on YouTube later. Subscribers to PrisonPlanet.tv, a few 100,000 watch it. So let's say 2.4 million. But we don't sit up here on a big power trip. I mean, I'm in a hotel room in Arkansas with my family, visiting folks, and I'm just here. We're not like, I'm on a big fancy studio and I'm God, though we're building those studios, because if that's what wakes the sheeple up, we'll do it. But the point is that she's panicking, and we're not going to play the whole clip. Now, the whole clip's up on Infowars.com. But, she goes for like 4 minutes making fun of our social network, PlanetInfowars.com, which is listener-driven. The listeners created the dating area. The listeners created the gun areas and the art areas and the horticulture areas and the farming areas and the astronomy areas. I mean, there's just thousands and thousands of groups at PlanetInfowars.com. And so they, no exaggeration, let's be conservative, 20 publications and newspapers that I saw in the Google search starting Thursday and Friday making fun of it, and then creating fake users and saying, I want to shoot you on the grassy knoll and stuff like that. Just really crazy. And she says, Alex Jones is getting rich off his dating service. He's making a lot of money. By the way, I don't really promote PlanetInfowars.com. It takes a ton of bandwidth. I lose money on it. Okay, I did it. I haven't promoted it. I got too many projects going, but it's okay for us to make money. I mean, we're not getting like taxpayer money like Maddow in stimulus money. So she goes completely up about that in the first 4 minutes. Then in the next 4 minutes, we're going to play a clip of that. She goes, they're discredited. Alex Jones developed this. Drudge Report pushed it. Ron Paul pushes it, the demon. And like she's tattling on us, like I caught them. Ron Paul was on Alex's show today, she says, Friday, and he was pushing homeschooling. Oh, to make money. Oh, it's so horrible that he would develop a curricula and sell it. That's how free market works. And you vote with your dollars, and if it gets popular, we get bigger. We have to, see, they want to take your tax money, this is key, use it then against you to enslave you. We sit here and go, here's a free social network, got a little bit of advertising on it if you want to, go over there, that's fine. We haven't even really sold advertising on it. We kind of launched it, forgot it, and it just sits there growing on its own like a monster that, Mr. Maddow hates, or Miss Maddow, excuse me. I thought it was Janet Reno's brother. But the point is that all of this is going on, and all I'm trying to do is warn America, rediscover the Bill of Rights and Constitution. Folks, if you're a new listener, what you hear here is Thomas Jefferson. I've read his books, his writings. I was reading a book today about George Washington again. The Bill of Rights, Constitution. I'm obsessed with America, okay? I really love the real America. USA, USA for the real America, not for the police state. I chant USA for free market, families, wealth, success. That's what made us great. And she goes into a conniption fit. We may get to it in the next segment, because I want David Knight to intro first before we go to break here in about 5 minutes. And then come back with the Maddow clip. David Knight, because you've done the big reports on this. You've got the numbers in front of you. They tell people about the hearings this week. They're panicking. She says, Alex Jones has now gotten the Drudge Report and Ron Paul and now Congress to actually cover this, and it's not real, and it's a conspiracy. And then they go, oh, no, we've got billions of bullets, but they're not for you, America. Of course, the Homeland Security memos say it's for the American people, the Tea Party, gun owners, veterans. Everybody knows that's been in the news. It's not Al-Qaeda now. It's the domestic group. They tried to blame us for the stuff in Boston. So everybody who's thinking knows this is a fraud. You can go to the federal website and fed.biz and see the purchase orders over the last 18 months or so. It's a little over 18 months, maybe 20 months, almost 2 years. They've bought 2.2 billion bullets. 1 billion have been delivered. But he gets up there and says, we only bought 700 million or 70 million or whatever. Break it down for them, because she thinks you're stupid. And again, people say, I was talking to a big media guy this Friday. He said, why are you even giving them attention, man? They do not have an audience. And I said, it doesn't matter. They've got the government. They don't care about an audience anymore. They've got the government. So yes, they are
a shadow of themselves, but they're still in control. We've got to fully politically expose their acts, which destroy them. We don't destroy them, they destroy themselves. So we're going to break in about 4 minutes. David Knight, lay out the background of this and the names of the different reports you've done, because I know you've broken this down, so people can see for themselves, trust but verify the fraud when they say there's no big deal with these bullets, which are now like 15 times any previous purchase, enough for a 35-year Iraq war.
Well, when this first broke, and Watson did the research, and he linked to the RFPs on their sites, and the first one was 250 million bullets. And people were saying, why do they need that much? 250 million. And in a short period of time, they went to 450 million. We covered that. Then they did another one just about a month or so after that for another 750 million. Then they did another one for another 250 million. Those are the big ones, and they were coming up. And that was happening about a year ago to, I think it was July or whatever.
And then 500,000 here, 1 million there.
Yeah, then they were getting constant. Then they were getting smaller ones, you know, like you had the Social Security Administration getting like 175,000, not million, but thousand.
Hollow points.
And so they focused on that, which was at that time 0.1% of the overall total. So they ignored the 99.9%.
Yeah, that's how the lie works. I'm glad you raised that. They'll go. Alex says it's 1.6 billion. When I'm reading the federal number, it's only a million. I mean, what?
Right.
The guy's a liar, guys. I mean,
and what they do is they selectively take one of these things and talk about it. Usually the very smallest one, like I said, the 0.1% of it, and talk about it. But now what you've got is Nick Nyack, Chief Procurement Officer for the Department of Homeland Security, here in this congressional testimony says, well, it wasn't 1.6 billion, it was 750 million. That's not true. That was only one of them, and we've linked to every one of these RFPs in our articles because we have to do that. It's too strange. People don't believe it if we don't link to these things. And then he's also lying about the fact that it's there to save money. You don't buy hollow point bullets to save money because they're way more expensive than the other ones.
Homeland Security's procurements, their procurements have more than tripled the price. You can look this up at the average ammo. They're buying it for 3 times what they bought it 2 years ago. Plus, the Defense Department has giant hordes of 9mm, 40 cal, 308, 223, hordes unknown. Well, they have their separate manufacturing systems.
That's absolutely ridiculous for them to say they're buying this kind of quantity to save money, because the people pointed out it's more than, when it was a lower number, it was 24 times what they had used in the Iraq War at its peak. You don't go to Costco or some other warehouse club and buy 30 years worth of toilet paper in order to save money. That's just absurd. And they're not doing that here. So it's not, they're not buying hollow points to save money, and they're not buying hollow points to use against somebody else. It was an amazing headline from...
That's right. Bottom line, they're buying them to dry up the market. Those are the key rounds that you cannot now get in almost every store. 308, 223, 9mm, 40 caliber, cannot get them.
There's a headline from U.S. News and World Report. DHS, Department of Homeland Security, denies ammo purchases aimed at civilians. Well, who are they aimed at? Are they aimed at the military?
Now remember, just 6 months ago, there were non-ammo purchases. It was all an evil, Alex Jones, Matt Drudge, foaming at the mouth, evil lie.
And what you see is, like I said before, when Tucker was covering the Bilderberg conference, that happened for 25 years. Everybody was pretending that it didn't exist, and you get that cycle where you ignore something or pretend it doesn't exist, then you ridicule it as a conspiracy, then you fight it.
It took 25 years to break its back, and now it takes a year to break a lie's back. Exactly.
That's right. And
they're using an old playbook which doesn't work anymore.
And in the case of the Boston bombing, we broke the back of that in just a couple of days when Dan went to that press conference and asked them about the drill, and they wouldn't give us a definitive answer. They wouldn't say yes, they wouldn't say no.
And all the CIA operatives like Anderson Cooper and others, they are wringing their hands because, folks, no one trusts you anymore, and we know your tricks. You know what's incredible, Jakari and David? They keep running the same trick over and over again, like we're stupid.
Well, the thing with the bullets, they can't really run a trick on that, or people are realizing that it is a trick, because all you have to do is go out to your local sporting goods store and see there's nothing there. You know, they got a few rounds of shotgun shells for clay pigeons, but that's about it.
They've got any weird round, but anything DHS wants, they get. And it's on record. I talked to major distributors. They cannot get any of it.
Now, the other part of this is now people are turning to Russia. Nearly 1 billion rounds of ammunition have been bought by private companies, and they're going to try to cut that off with the UN Arms Trade Treaty.
That's right. Obama, quote, said last week, whitehouse.gov, look it up, we wrote an article. That's a conspiracy, too. It has a direct link to whitehouse.gov. He said, we're going to block any foreign importation of ammo or clips or guns. Oh, but he doesn't want your guns. He's just going to ban you getting it for yourself.
Exactly.
This is the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight here with Jakari Jackson, and we've got Alex Jones live on the road. He's going to be joining us in just a few minutes, but we'd like for you to call in and tell us what you think about the mainstream media's collapsing narrative here. Our number to call in is 877-789-ALEX. That's 877-789-2539. Call and tell us what you think about that. Alex, are you there?
Yes, I am. Again, coming to you from Arkansas, and my crew is down there and deep in the heart of Texas doing a great job. I want to commend the crew that comes in on Sunday and all of you, the listeners out there. I just briefly want to remind listeners that we are listener-supported. When you click on the advertisers at Infowars.com, when you buy the high-quality Pro Pure water filters with promo code WATER and get 10% off, you fund our operation. When you get the magazine, when you buy the books and T-shirts and films at InfoWarsStore.com, you fund a true independent media operation that stands up for the Bill of Rights and Constitution and true libertarian, what you could call paleo-conservative ideas. All the things that are under attack. The truth is, we've got the winning ideas. We've got history on our side. But organized evil and organized crime has dumbed our people down. It's time to change that. So be sure and spread the word about Infowars.com. Be sure and spread the word about the radio broadcast. Don't just passively listen. And I want to thank all our friends in the real media who've helped spread the word about the broadcast as well. We're all in this together. We have a basic instinctive need to be free, to have our families be free. We're threatened and upset by corruption and crony insider behavior. And we're very aggressive when it comes to defense of our liberty. We're free men and women. So I salute all of you, and I salute Jim Tucker. I shot a video today in the woods on a hike talking about Jim, who I really respected and who was a true gumshoe reporter. And that's also up on Infowars.com and on the YouTube channel. Rest in peace, Jim Tucker. Again, the example of the one man standing against the tyranny. Now, we talked about the bullets and the fact that they're liars, but don't believe us. In fact, I'm on the road, but if the crew, or if David wants to tell the crew and talk back there, what articles to pull up. I mean, we've written probably, let's not exaggerate, 100 articles the last year and a half, with links to the federal sites where they've bought 2.2 billion bullets. And just go look at that. But you remember them 6 months ago saying there are no bullets. Now they're like, the 2 billion bullets aren't for you. Well, you know Homeland Security is for the American people, and they're training for the American people. So here's Rachel Maddow literally freaking out that her top audience is 600,000. Literally, I mean, they used to have like 3 million. CNN used to have like 10 million. Their top audience is maybe 1 million. They are a joke. They are a paper tiger. So you say, why do we show them here? Why do we play them here? To analyze them, to critique them. But to explain to you, they're owned by General Electric, a mega bank offshore sworn to destroy this country, shutting down coal-powered plants that supply more than half our power so their plants make bigger profits. I mean, it's important to call these people out. Because if special interests can come in and buy your city off and triple charge you for water, that's not privatization. That's fascism. That's collectivism for the corporatist. So again, they've confused all the terms. So let's go ahead and go to the establishment in full-bore panic mode right now that what we've been covering for over a year is now in Congress, and the lie has unraveled for them. So they're basically burning down. Because if we realize that, hey, government's gotten too big and it's arming against us, and hey, it's creepy, which is completely obvious, then they can't play the part of our savior. Then they're the alien occupying globalist force we know they are. Then we can win the republic. If you wake up to the takeover, it's game over. Here's that clip.
Last week, 4 Republican members of Congress sent a letter to the Department of Homeland Security demanding that the Department of Homeland Security respond to the latest Glenn Beck, Alex Jones conspiracy theory, which is that the real Boston Marathon bomber was being protected by the White House, by Michelle Obama. The Republican chairman of the...
Hit pause and back it up. They conflate and mix that Michelle Obama is protecting the real bomber. All we pointed out is he's on a no-fly list. He's connected to the Saudi royals. He was there when it happened. The White House visited him. The Saudi foreign minister was there over this. There's a major cover-up going. You know, Big Sis a week and a half ago said in Congress The Drudge Report's not credible, link into Infowars.com with an article about this guy on a no-fly list. Turns out it was true. No, the truth is we are credible. That's why they're attacking us. They would be ignoring us if we weren't critical. So she mixes this in with bullets to try to, claim that, oh, well, that's outrageous, so this is outrageous. Again, realize the tactics they're using. I use truth to savage the enemy. They use lies. Once you're aware of them, they bounce off of you. Let's go back to the disdainful anti-American.
Which is that the real Boston Marathon bomber was being protected by the White House, by Michelle Obama. The Republican chairman of the Homeland Security Committee in the House signed on to that letter.
They scour the web to find you on Twitter or Facebook with your family at Christmas putting a Santa hat on a reindeer, which everybody does. I mean, everybody screws around. Everybody has, and then you're discredited. No, you're discredited, Maddow. Let's continue.
I have a lot of people calling me up and saying that there's all these conspiracies and so forth and so forth. You probably heard them. Doomsday events, civil unrest, you're preparing for that. Do you have any operational plans in the event there's a major or civil unrest that you're going to arrest innocent civilians and put them in FEMA camps? Do you have any plans like that?
No plans.
The answer is clear. You have no plans whatsoever.
None.
Right.
All right, let's hit pause. David Knight, Jakari Jackson, I want you tomorrow. I know you're going to be co-hosting the show with me. I want you tomorrow for the Nightly News. Get all the Army manuals, all the training manuals, all the videos where Homeland Security admits it's training to take on the public during a financial collapse. Europe's already happening. And I want you to show them lying, okay? How's that sound, Jakari?
Sounds good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we literally overdo it. Show like 15 times them admitting it, okay? I mean, it's just unbelievable. Everybody, you know about this. Let's go back to the lying. Here it goes.
Anything else like that?
No plans at all.
Congressman Bentivolio got the guy from Homeland Security on the record, admitting no plans to enslave the people of America.
Hit pause. We're not being enslaved. The borders aren't open. You don't give illegals free goodies to come here and then vote for gun control. I mean, we're not enslaved with cameras everywhere. We're not enslaved with Boston lockdown. We're not enslaved with checkpoints everywhere. We're not enslaved with the TSA sticking their hands on our pants. We're not enslaved with Congress having hearings about taking our pension funds and bank accounts after tax like they're doing in Cyprus and other areas. I mean, this is openly being discussed in Congress. Why don't you report on that, you witch? Don't forget, too, we've got the May issue coming out in a couple days. You can't order it yet in bulk at cost or sign up for a subscription. We can sign up for a subscription for InfoWars Magazine and get it. It'll be the next issue. We're going to have 3 free InfoWars.com stickers in there. A PrisonPlanet.com article, a sticker, an InfoWars.com sticker, and a InfoWars.com Save the Constitution sticker. That will be, we print about 110,000. That'll be 330,000. 330,000. And I may start every month putting 300,000+ bumper stickers in there. Can you imagine all of those? There's already so many all over the country. All right, getting back to Maddow, and then I'm going to get you guys who are chomping at the bit, your take on this. Let's finish up with her freaking out about Homeland Security going, why are you buying all these bullets? So they should ask, why are you buying armored vehicles? Why is your training manual? Send it to Congress. Say you're preparing to arrest patriots and gun owners. I mean, they have gun confiscation drills in the new Army manuals. Wait till Congress finally, I put out 6 months ago or 3 months ago the targets of little kids they're practicing to shoot. No one could even believe it, even though the company apologized and said Homeland Security paid for these. I get the fact it's hard to believe it's so over the top, but you've got to go look it up for yourself. So we're going to bring these guys down together if you just promote the truth. Let's finish up with Ms. Maddow.
The answer is clear. You have no plans whatsoever.
None.
Right. How about anything else like that?
No plans at all.
Congressman Bentivolio got the guy from Homeland Security on the record, admitting no plans to enslave the people of America yet.
Really, I thought I was getting enslaved.
But they better not try. Because today, Oklahoma Senator James Inhofe introduced a bill to block government agencies from buying ammunition.
All right, stop right there.
Along with Oklahoma Congressman Frank Luke.
Back it up 10 seconds. See, they're panicking. Now the Senate is moving to go, all right, you got 2 billion rounds, enough to fight a war for 35 years. It was for 20-something. And that's all you get for now. In 35 years, you can have some more. You can only have thousands of rounds per agent. That's it. Because you're drying up the whole market, and now they're freaking. See, it's over. We don't listen to you anymore, pinhead. We're only talking about you so everyone knows that you're a lying globalist collaborator. Let's finish up with her.
along with Oklahoma Congressman Frank Lucas, because, you know, I live in FEMA Region 9 or whatever. Want to meet my kitty? Conspiracy theories are not new. They are not even the exclusive provenance of the American right. There are left-wing conspiracy theories, too. But right now, anti-government conspiracy theories are anti the Obama government. And that appears to be too convenient and too appealing for the supposedly mainstream right to leave unharvested.
Point here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to throw it to you and take a little bit of calls here. The point to all of this is what they attack is what they fear. And what happens with Hitler and Stalin and Mao and other tyrannies, people don't recognize it because it's so over the top. It's like women that got in the car with, you know, serial killers, like Ted Bundy. He was a handsome guy in a suit driving a yellow Volkswagen. You know, he couldn't be a killer. He's non-threatening. They act liberal. These are authoritarians. Look at what they're doing. Look at how they're butchering the country. Look at Seven Czars quoting Mao. Look at how they do whatever they want, Fast and Furious, to blame the Second Amendment, all these other events. They're counting on you to be naive about what's going on. They are counting on you to be mindless and to not realize it. And they're scared of this. Because why are you buying enough bullets for 35 years? Why are you buying giant armored vehicles? Why are you engaged in all of this? And that's really the big question. Because government is out of control, and that's common sense, and that's history, and that's what normally ends up happening. And she just wants to sit up there and say they want to kill us all. No, they want to be able to kill anybody that doesn't let them take their private bank accounts and bankrupt this country because we're being conquered by greedy offshore banks that have done it to 100+ other nations. And they think America can be taken down as well. They think we're done. They think we're a joke. Gentlemen, I'm done for tonight. You take it out and come back and take some calls, but what's your take on what you heard her saying?
It was just blatant lie after blatant lie. She said that alluding to Infowars.com and yourself, Alex Jones, that we said Sandy Hook never happened. We never said that. We just had a few questions such as, where's the surveillance video? Why are they finding guns in cars? Why did this guy get into a building and had a locked door? Stuff like that. And then she mentioned Michelle Obama talking about I don't even remember exactly what she said. I'm not saying she's protecting whoever. We're just curious as to why she was there.
Well, look at the way she just flat out lied. I mean, you could call this yellow journalism. You could call it straw man arguments. But when she says that Congress has put a bill up to block the government from buying ammo, that's not true. They're putting a bill up to stop the government from stockpiling excessive amounts of ammo.
They're not cornering the market. And cornering the market.
Exactly. And so she slants and lies when she says that sort of thing. You know, the problem with Rachel Maddow is that her criticisms are too little too late. She's still back at the part where she's trying to ridicule or ignore what we're saying, right? And it's already out. It's already gone beyond that. You've got Forbes magazine saying that we need to have a national discussion about this because Forbes looked at our articles. They followed the links. They saw that there were RFPs from the government on the Fed Biz Ops
and they said what's frightening is the media is denying it when it's real. The cover-up is the proof of the darkness, the proof of the criminality, the proof of the evil aims.
Absolutely. That's why they've lost their credibility. And the only thing they can think of to do is to lie and slant the headlines, just like you talked about how she ridiculed the congressman showing a picture of him horsing around at Christmas time with a reindeer. Then they say that they're going to try to stop the government from buying ammunition. That's not at all true. And then just throwing this label of conspiracy around. You know, we're talking about conspiracy, and this well-written article from Rolling Stones talking about this giant banking conspiracy that's going on. It's Matt Taibbi, T-A-I-B-B-I. This guy really nails it. He said, he quoted someone who is Michael Greenberger, former director of the Commodities Future Trading Commission, who said, it's a double conspiracy. It's the height of criminality. Financial markets, interest rates, and interest rate swaps are being manipulated both at the same time, often by the same
What about the
banks.
top Reagan official that just came out 2 weeks ago and said it is a criminal organized crime takeover?
Yeah, talking about Stockman or Stockman? Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a gigantic amount of money here, too. To put it in perspective, and this again, from this article of Rolling Stones, because he really nails it. It's about a 15-page article if you print it out. He says it's about $379 trillion market meaning that any manipulation would affect a pile of assets about 100 times the size of the U.S. federal government.
That's right. Here's the deal. These bankers like Maddow, but he only stole $100 billion. They've stole trillions. They've taken over in fraud. Now they want to take our guns and make us slaves because they're scared of us because they're all going to go to jail.
Hi, Ted Anderson, president of Midas Resources. With over 30 years of experience in the precious metals business, I can tell you without a doubt, we are facing the most dangerous and volatile times, not just in the United States, but worldwide. Peace of mind is gold and silver. Now is the time to invest in gold. When it comes to bullion coins, our prices are competitive and the closest to melt. If it's numismatics you're looking for, we have some of the best deals out there. Visit MidasResources.com today or go to Infowars.com and click on the link to see our daily specials. Here's an example of one of our long-term specials we've been offering for more than a year. 2 silver dollars from the turn of the last century, plus 2 powerful films, The Obama Deception and The American Dream. We also add in the book Dishonest Money, all for $72 and free shipping. The most trusted name in precious metals is Midas Resources. Call 1-800-686-2237 or go to Infowars.com. I'm Ted Anderson with Midas Resources.
We are now only entering the edge of a global financial superstorm, the likes of which the planet has never seen. Here in the United States, the private Federal Reserve is giving more than $85 billion of taxpayer money a month to themselves and other offshore foreign banks. And the worst part is, we have to pay the bank's interest on the money we give them. There is now a race between the global central bank mafia cartels to see who can devalue their country's currencies the fastest. We are already seeing big increases in inflation at the grocery store and the gas line. This will eventually lead to hyperinflation. More than a dozen top globalists like George Soros have been buying record amounts of gold while at the same time bad-mouthing it to the public. Don't just listen to what they say. Watch what they do. For more than 6,000 years of recorded human history, gold has been the ultimate hedge against uncertain times and inflation. Before investing in metals, it is important to do your own research and find a reputable company. Midas Resources has the highest Better Business Bureau rating of an A+. Unfortunately, very few precious metal companies can boast that. Midas Resources has assembled one of the most educated, researched, and professional teams of brokers in the industry. The evidence is overwhelming. In uncertain times, gold and silver is safe harbor. Now is the time to invest in gold. Call 800-686-2237 and Midas Resources will mail you 10 reasons to own gold absolutely free. No shipping. It's absolutely free. And finally, Ted Anderson wants to challenge you to find any deal that comes close to his 2 silver dollars at cost with free shipping with 2 free films and a book for $72. That's more than $160 value for $72 shipping included. Click the link at Infowars.com to go to the MidasResources.com specials page. Brought to you by MidasResources.com and Ted Anderson, the trusted name in precious metals.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, joined here in the studio with Jakari Jackson, and we were just talking to Alex on the road. He'll be back tomorrow. But we're going to go to callers here in just a second, and we've been talking about how the mainstream media's narrative is kind of losing steam here and how they're losing control of what's going on. What do you think, Jakari?
Yeah, and actually,
they're getting pretty desperate, aren't they?
Yeah, they are pretty desperate. Alex will be back via Skype tomorrow. Just want to clarify that for our users as well as Gerald Salente. And yeah, they are pretty desperate. We see this not just, in the last clip we were talking about, but we're seeing this all over. We're seeing it in Salon. We're seeing it many places our viewers don't normally go. But it's out there, and people hate the fact that people are getting the real information and asking questions. And how dare you ask a question? And speaking of questions, I do believe we have some callers on the call line. Let's go ahead and talk to Julio in Illinois.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Yes. Good evening, guys. First off, my condolences to the Tucker family. Jim Tucker, true legend. I got to meet him last year at Bilderberg. I even bought him a drink. And true legend, great stories. And he inspired me as an investigative journalist. And seeing reporters like Jim Tucker and then seeing corporate media just reading off a teleprompter, it's just so frustrating. You just talked about being in press conferences, asking tough questions. And I go to press conferences. Tomorrow I'm going to release a whole bunch of footage at press conferences over the last few months from the USDA secretary, from the head of National Weather Service. And when you ask them tough questions, they fidget around, they get nervous, they lie. I had the National Weather Service director admit to me, to my face, that weather modification doesn't take place anymore, when that's a flat-out lie. And when you get these people in tough situations, just asking them a simple, tough question, you'd be amazed at what happens.
Oh, yeah, we saw Dan Bidandi shut down several press conferences. I mean, they were lined up. They had Carmen Ortiz, who was a prosecutor, a federal prosecutor there. They were going to have a lot of people get up on the stage and give their presentation. They just shut it down because they couldn't they wouldn't answer his questions, and they couldn't shut him up. It was... Well, thanks for doing that. Now, you're with We Are Change, aren't you, Julio?
Oh, yeah, I contribute to work with them. I'm just a roving independent journalist, so I contribute wherever I can, and it's just so great to see so many great young journalists out there, people just doing what you guys are doing, just asking tough questions, looking into the hard evidence, David.
It's a lot more interesting. As I say, truth is more interesting than fiction, and that holds true for the news as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I had Tom Vilsack tell me to my face in a press conference that I ask too much questions.
Too many questions. You can't have you asking those real questions.
It's supposed to be a PR opportunity for them, not an information opportunity. Well, thanks for calling. I appreciate that. Let's go to Kurt in Alabama. Kurt?
Evening, gentlemen. How y'all making out this evening?
Doing okay.
Well,
how are you?
I'm not doing so well these days with everything that's going on, but it kills me because I got questions that I ask in my own mind, and it's general stuff that normal public should be interested in or curious about, and they just push it by the way and don't even worry about it. And it's going on since 9/11. I just have question after question after question, and everybody gets on the Second Amendment, and it's a big problem. And believe me, I'm pro-gun all the way. I live in a part of the country where we got wild animals roaming about, all kinds of stuff. And my main concern that scares me the most is they've been chipping away the Fourth Amendment for the longest time.
Oh, yeah.
And
all of the amendments.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
And, they make anything up. Oh, I thought I saw this, or I thought I smelt alcohol or something on somebody's breaths, and now I got probable cause to go and just interfere and ransack people's lives.
Oh, yeah. And we have this article. I just want to throw this out there to make your point. FBI conducts warrant sweeps in Oakland. This is actually gun sweeps. And what they did, they blocked off a section of Oakland and wouldn't let anybody in and out, and just went house to house confiscating guns. And that's exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, the first part they started with was they started chiseling away back in the 80s, mid-80s, late 80s, chiseling away at the sacrament of family and family staying together. If you rip the families apart, it's age-old divide and conquer.
Oh, absolutely.
Rip the families apart, and you can do whatever you want to anybody because you got them divided now. So.
And like we were talking about, Ron Paul has focused on the Federal Reserve. He's now focusing on homeschooling. Those are some real foundational issues. But in terms of the police state, if you go back and look at, I think it was his name Daryl Gates? Anyway, he was a police chief in L.A. He was the one who invented SWAT teaming.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that's become,
That's nationwide.
Nobody thinks about no-knock raids. And think about how many times, whether it's for drugs or whether it's for something else, that the police come in all dressed in black, kick down a door, and then people think they're being, it's some kind of intrusion. Yeah. They think that, it's a gang coming in, so they come down with a gun and then they get shot and killed. That
or lo and
is
behold,
not,
they shoot one of the officers.
Absolutely. That is not the way law enforcement should be doing things. But we see something like that.
They do in New York, in Nazi New York City. They go and they just shoot first, ask questions later, and we saw a gun or we saw a weapon or we saw something we thought was. So now we're justified in doing whatever we've done.
Absolutely. What we need to start doing is we need to start demanding from our state and local representatives that they reverse this SWAT stuff. But what we're seeing now is instead of that happening, just as the SWAT teams in LA became a template for the rest of the country, we're now seeing this drill that happened in Boston. We're now seeing that being used as a template for the rest of the country. Just like Sibel Edmonds said on our show on Friday, she said the real drill was the drill to see how people would react when we went door to door and basically created martial law, and they didn't handle it too well. So, well, thank you. Thanks. We're going to go to Mitchell in Wyoming. Mitchell, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to affirm the point you guys and Alex have said a lot, that people need to get involved and do their own research, to read voting records, to track the people they've voted for and they're going to elect. Because I want to point out Rand Paul's statement clarifying his stance on drone use. It's on his website. The thing that struck me is the last paragraph. It says, fighting terrorism and capturing terrorists must be done while preserving our constitutional protections. This was demonstrated last week in Boston. Now, to me, that's a huge red flag for somebody to call the events in Boston last week constitutional.
Yeah, that is. I hadn't seen that. That is an amazing red flag.
You said that's on his own website?
Yeah, it's in his press release. If you just Google Paul's statement on domestic drone use, it'll be in the Google results for www.paul.senate.gov.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about what he said in terms of he doesn't really care if it's a cop or a drone shooting somebody who's fleeing with a gun. Well, I do. I think we need to. I think we need to, instead of making things easier for people to get shot immediately on site, I think we need to be putting some restrictions on the police in terms of how they use lethal force and even how they use non-lethal force. We're seeing tasers being used like whips nowadays, and
that's my concern, because people say, "Well, the cops use guns and they have tasers." Like, I'm not necessarily saying they should be using these things as cavalierly as they do. Just things such as pepper spray. If you have somebody who's asthmatic, they have breathing problems, and now you have this pepper spray clogging them up, and also people who have very negative reactions to being tased.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's very dangerous, and they're tasing pregnant women or whatever. I mean, it's just
tasing guys who have seizures.
Yeah. Absolutely. There needs to be something. What's missing in all of this is accountability for police when they do things inappropriately. But over and over and over again, you see it, just as we saw here in our own city here in Austin. Right. You see the police closing ranks behind themselves rather than saying we had somebody who stepped over the line, he needs to be disciplined or let go. Instead, they insist that nothing happens to him. Right. And all that does is foster this kind of criminal attitude of the fact that they can do to people whatever they want to. It just turns them into bullies, essentially, lethal bullies. Oh, yeah. So that's something that we should all be concerned about.
Further is like people need to not just, read the news or just listen to InfoWars and then kind of extrapolate their political decisions from there. They need to actually read these things and track the people that, are representing their state and things like that. And just like with this Paul statement, it's like Rand Paul, I appreciate his filibuster, and there's a lot of things he's backed that I've been in favor of and things, but that doesn't make him, all-knowing. And I know nobody's perfect, but at the same time, it's like we need to admit that, some of the people we're backing are also doing things that are very huge mistakes. To call the events in Boston constitutional is just off the chart, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's always a concern. Nobody's perfect. Just like you said, you may support Rand Paul on guns, you may support Ted Cruz on guns, but you may disagree with him on other topics, and that's a very relevant subject you brought up.
Yeah, we don't want to we don't want to ever get to the situation where you see people like Rachel Maddow being with Obama, where you get yourself so tied into the person that you give them a pass to do any and everything. Right. That's a recipe for not only disaster, but fascist dictatorship. We're not about a person, we're about principles.
So I'm Jakari Jackson, David Knight. We'll be back tomorrow. Alex Jones Radio Show.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.